Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cosmic Conversations. I am your host, Marla Martenson, and I'm so excited today because I've got Louise Spalding back. Hello, Tina.
Hello.
So she's got a new book that she has channeled, and I am a big fan of these channeled books that come through her and all of Tina's work. She channels Ananda, she channels Jesus, she channels Mother Mary, she channels Mary Magdalene, and I've got some other videos with her and one that explains her whole journey that I will put the link to below, so if we don't have to go through all of how this happened to her, but it's an amazing story. But she has a new book called Love and a Map to the Unaltered Soul. And me as a matchmaker, my whole work and life is about love, so this is really exciting for me. So do you want to tell us a little bit about this, and then we're going to
Yeah.
channel Jesus?
Yeah, we'll get Jesus in on this whole love business. I started channeling this book early last year, early 2015. And it was started by Ananda. So they started channeling the book, and I thought, well, that's great. Ananda's writing a book on love. And then at about chapter 15, they said, and that's us done, and now we're going to hand it over to Jesus. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. I had no idea that he was going to be in on it too. And he did the same thing, and about a few chapters in said, well, that's my part of the book, and now I'm going to introduce Mary Magdalene to you. So it was the first time I had ever channeled her. I had never channeled her before, and I didn't actually know that I was going to channel her in that book. So she comes in at the end of the book and gives her version of their love affair and marriage and life together. So he covered his side of the story in Jesus, My Autobiography. Mm-hmm. And then she gives the girl's version, which of course is very different. You know, she was not the star of the show, and I think being married to him had its challenges. And so she goes into her journey of falling in love with him, their relationship, having children, getting married, the crucifixion, and the whole thing. So it's a very, very interesting love story. But what they're really doing in this book is helping us redefine love. So what we have done in our society is we have narrowed love down to a very, very small thing. And what they're talking about is getting us to realize that love is a constant opportunity for us every single day, and not just loving people. But for example, you love to write, I love to write. They want us to, when we sit down and do these jobs that we love, they want us to see that that is a love relationship in our life. So a lot of people will say, oh, I'm alone, I don't have any love in my life. And that thought makes them suffer. When in actual fact, they love their garden, they love cooking, they love going swimming, they love walking in the sun, they love picking flowers. There's so many things. But when you say, I have no love in my life, your guidance system gives you an instant feedback of feeling bad. Mm-hmm. Because that thought actually isn't true. And so what they're doing in the book is they're taking us right back to preconception. So they talk about the aspects of love that bring a human into existence, how the consciousness of the spirit brings the parents together, creates the baby, and then the journey through childhood, and talking about how love manifests and what it actually is, kind of redefining it for us so that we begin to look for love in all the right places. Because so often in this, only thinking of it as this special love relationship, that's the only place we really we look for love. Mm-hmm. We actually need to be looking for it out in our world, in every interaction we have. And that's really what happened with Jesus, is he became a being that was only love focused. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's really what the spiritual evolution that we're all participating in is coming back to our unaltered soul, which is the title. It wasn't my title, it was their title. And they refer to the unaltered soul as that being that came into this place to live a unique, passionate, creative life. And we lose that. We lose it through our social conditioning, things our parents and religions and schools teach us. And that's why so many people are unhappy, because they literally have lost contact with that original aspect of themselves that came in to live this amazing experience of individuality, and being that unique person
It
that we
was
are.
interesting when you say the from preconception and then the parents that come together to have this person, but many parents are coming together in abusive relationships or codependent relationships. They're not happy unions, but
Yes.
they're bringing forth someone. But then do they say that it's said so many times that we are choosing who we're coming through for an
Well, every
experience with?
being, every consciousness that comes into manifestation in this world has a certain frequency. So you will have set that frequency from other incarnations.
Oh,
So
interesting. The
so
frequency, it's all
yeah,
frequency. Yeah.
the frequency that you hold as a result of all of your past experiences in other physical forms is going to determine what parents you're born to. So if you have been making lots of negative or unloving choices and your frequency is low, you're going to be born into an unloving family.
Okay.
And this is the thing that they really want us to get, is that, and this is where forgiveness comes in, is when you really get that your frequency set the tone of the family in which you were born, then this idea of it's my parents' fault, which contaminates a lot of people's lives.
Right.
You know, if only my parents had been this, then I wouldn't be this way. What they're pointing out is that we came into a frequency to show us where we were either loving or unloving, and a lot of people don't realize that. So it's kind of the blame game. They blame their parents for their difficult, unloving life. But in actual fact, that's the frequency they're holding themselves. So much of this we're unaware of. We're like icebergs. We have this little bit of us that we accept and see ourselves as. And then there's this massive underbelly of unconsciousness that's also playing out in our lives. And this is why people get so confused about love, for example. So they're like, I'm a really nice person, I'm loving, but in their thoughts, they're like, oh, I don't like him, I hate her, God, I hate the way my body is, I hate those people, and I hate those terrorists. Right. And there's actually a lot of unloving thinking going on, but the social face is very kind.
Yes, yes.
But the universe isn't listening to your social face. The universe is listening to your heart. It's listening to the things you think about and regurgitate all the time. So you can have a misperception of how loving you are. It's not what you present, it's what's going on in the inside. Yeah. And then so it's very confusing for people. Right. If they have a very sweet social face, they look beautiful, they dress nicely, they have a good job, but inside they're either self-loathing or incredibly insecure or hateful about thinking about other people. Right. They attract to them a partner that's unloving, and they're very confused.
Yes.
They don't realize that that person is actually mirroring their frequency. And this is what they call a loving aspect of this experience, because we're actually unaware of how unloving we are.
Right. Yeah, and we'll say, oh, all the only guys that come to me are jerks, or I always attract the jerks, and they're blaming it on the guys for coming, but that's what you're pulling in.
You have to actually go inside and go, where am I doing what this person... I'm having all these experiences, and strangely, I'm the common denominator. Right. Where am I unloving? And you have to... It's not just behavior. Yeah. It's your internal dialogue with yourself. So if people could really get that, what would people think of me if they heard all my thoughts about myself, about other people? How loving would I be if everything I thought came out of my mouth?
Right.
Then you start thinking, oh dear, really?
Yeah. Well, and even the smallest things, because I've tried to do that. I've tried, okay, I'm going to do non-judgment, but you go to the grocery store and you see somebody in a tight pair of pants and a little... they're like, don't they have a mirror? They should not be wearing that. It's just so almost impossible not to just judge something in even a small way, but it takes a lot of work, right.
Well,
Focus
the other thing, of course, that's coming through in these teachings is that this is a reflective universe. So when you attack somebody else for what they look like, that means that you do the same thing for yourself all the time. That means that you're going to be judging your value all the time by how physically beautiful you are, which, of course, is constantly reflected back to us in this society. But that actually is an unloving way of being, and that's why when we judge our bodies or when we judge someone else's, we get that dip in our frequency. We don't feel good. That's our guidance system saying, that's unloving, don't do that.
Well, this is interesting because when I was younger, in my 20s and 30s, and I was real cute and beautiful and acting and all this, and I was like always like judgmental in my mind about, because I had to, but once I got, now I'm over 50 and I don't get, looked at anymore or flirted with or asked at, so I've changed completely. I don't care about looks anymore. It's like, I don't care if anybody compliments me. I don't care if they like how I look. I like me. I'm older now, and this is what it is. And so I don't judge other people anymore either. I'm like, who cares? And if somebody says, oh, look at her hair, she should cut it. She's 60 and it's down to her waist. I'm like, she wants it that way. Who cares? And I've really completely switched
But what
gears.
you have going on, though, Marla, is you have a job you love. Your value is not coming from your
from my looks anymore.
Right, and that's unusual. Not everyone has that. I have the same experience happening. As I'm going into my late 50s myself, I am so grateful that I have spent the last 10 years doing something I love that is now turning into a career. And I am not dependent on this physical body to get the feedback that I want. And that's, so in terms of how this relates to love, is what we want to do is start seeing things like judgment of other is unloving. If I keep doing that, then I'm not going to attract love to me because I'm not holding the frequency of love. And this is why people have so much trouble finding loving relationships, because they're not, what they're presenting and what's actually going on inside are two different things. So the book starts, so what they're really doing with the book is they're saying, we know you're really interested in getting this special love relationship that you want, but here's why you're not getting it. And they go into the basis of life. So they want us to appreciate and love our life. This is a sacred opportunity we have. So if we're really honoring this opportunity, if we begin to see our bodies, for example, because not loving our bodies is a very big issue in the society, if we begin to see loving our bodies, because the body is going to bring you your spiritual evolution, it's going to bring you into the experiences that will make you elevate your frequency or give you the opportunity. It's not a guarantee, obviously. But if you hate your body and blame it and judge it, you're going to, first of all, hurt it. It's going to get ill. It's not going to thrive, because bodies don't thrive when you hate them, like anything else doesn't thrive when you hate it. And so we have, that old phrase, you've got to love yourself first.
Yeah, that's cliche, but it's true. Phrase. I know it's so overdone, but it's true.
But most people don't really realize where they're being unloving, and so they're confused. They attract someone to them who's hateful or judgmental or even violent, and yet they may be being violent to themselves in their own thoughts. But because of how we're trained in our society, we are not taught that thought is real and it's creative and it's bringing your experience to you. We're taught that thoughts are secret, that your feelings are secret, and they don't create, but they do. They create everything.
Oh, right. So those secret thoughts. I know. I'm always thinking, because people, psychics and things, will say, "Oh, your mother's connected with you, your father. They hear your every thought." You're right, and you're like, "Oh crap!" This could be pretty embarrassing, because we're all not on all the time. It's like these thoughts. So they're not private. Is the point?
They are not private, and Jesus can hear your thoughts, and God can hear your thoughts, and the universe is listening. And that's really what we have to. And it's not about a punitive, judgmental God. It's God force, God energy is loving, And it's giving you the opportunity through this reflective universe to see where you're not loving. That's all it's doing. It's not punishing you with this reflection. It's saying, this is what you're attracting. Look at it. Is this what you want? Because this is your frequency.
Right.
And so they're really going into the fundamentals of the laws of creation, because everything is created from love. So for example, if you look around your kitchen, there's a kettle there. Somebody loved design. Someone loved inventing. At some point, that kettle was an idea in someone's mind who loved their creative job as an inventor, and they invented that thing. So we don't think of a kettle as coming from love,
right?
But its origins came from creativity. So creativity is an aspect of love. So, in our society, a lot of people aren't encouraged into their creativity. You're not going to get a good job, like you need to earn money. So there are many, many different facets of this idea of love that this book is addressing. And they all relate to this search we have for meeting the ideal partner. And that's, they're really writing it because essentially they say, you guys are really unloving, and this is why your relationships aren't thriving, because you're doing all of these things that are very unloving, but you haven't been taught how love works. You haven't been taught what love is.
Yeah, and some of the chapters that are included, I have this list here. The unaltered soul seeks experience, move beyond the physical. You are a part of greater oneness. You can raise your frequency. So I'm excited just to read that part. Seek love within. You create your experiences, how to find love and find happiness. So I think if we read this book and apply it, we're really going to be on the right track.
Well, of course, I get to, being a channel, I don't write this book. The first time I transcribe it, I'm reading it for the first time. I'm not aware of what it is. So so I'll tell you a story about what happened to me last year, just so no one thinks I'm living in this ideal world. I live with my frequency. I got scammed. I got scammed on a dating site last year.
Oh boy!
And I got taken into all of my beliefs about relationship, being made a fool of. It was one heck of a year, let me tell you. Interestingly enough, I was writing a book about love as I was going through this, and I think it was a little bit of an orchestration. So what Ananda told me was that this was showing me my frequency around relationship and money. And I had been doing what a lot of people do. When something doesn't go well for us, we start to avoid it.
Yes.
So we go, okay, I'm no good at relationships. I'm just not going to go there. Spirit doesn't care if you don't want to go there. Your purpose here is to evolve and grow. And so you are going to have brought to you a reflection of your frequency. No matter whether you want to deal with it or not, we are here to evolve our consciousness. So in that experience, I got reflected back to me my financial fear that I was ongoing doing work with, and my beliefs about relationship. And it was a real, but then I used it as forgiveness practice. So I don't feel victimized by it. What I do, because of the spiritual path that I follow, is when I get a very negative thing happening to me, first of all, I deal with it on a human level, but then very quickly I go, okay, what's this showing me about my frequency? I need to look at me here. How did I attract this to myself? How did I create this?
Right.
And so I had to go deep into those subjects. And as I was writing that book, I was having to practice love on a level that I had never practiced before. And it was a very enlightening experience. And to actually do forgiveness work with someone that has lied and cheated and stolen money from you is a really intense demonstration of love. And that was so fascinating, because honestly, if I had not been writing that book at the same time, and I had not had the guidance of Ananda and Jesus, I couldn't have coped with that situation. It was very, very difficult. but I've gone through the healing process, the forgiveness process, and the education process. So it got my attention, and now I'm sort of doing my inner work as it relates to those subjects.
Right. And oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you, but yeah, they're out there scamming constantly,
Yeah.
so we have to be alert. And also, you had mentioned I have a job that I love, but then I love it, but at the same time, anytime you're working with people, you have some, a couple of bad apples, as we'll say, and guys that would yell at me, or my partner and I were a defendant in a jury trial. We were sued by one of our clients in May, and it was very stressful, and we had to pay a lot of attorney's fees and lose work. We won the case. But
I saw the video. It was very good. I really enjoyed it, actually.
Oh, thank you. But the one thing that was so funny, so I'm sitting there, I'm the main witness, and then my partner's sitting behind, and I'm trying to, I'm calling in the angels and Jesus and everything, but that attorney who was lying about us, and then the client that was sitting next to me, at some point I was like mentally shooting daggers in the back of his head.
Yeah.
And then I told my partner, we'd have a bathroom break or whatever. I'm like, I'm shooting daggers at his head. And she goes, I'm sending him love and angels. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you were, because I was really pissed.
Canceled each other out.
And we did end up winning it. But it was hard, not when you're watching somebody lie about you, or when you're witnessing, dealing with somebody stealing your money and scamming you. Yeah, in that moment, it's hard to send the love. But then afterwards, I did, forgiveness work. But then I wonder, well, this frequency, am I pulling in some clients like this? But then my partner does a lot of inner work too. She's very evolved, but we're not perfect or enlightened. So yeah, we're going to pull in some of these.
We're going to be shown. So what's with a situation like that? What you want to look at is what it brought up in you. What fears did it bring up in you? Fears of losing money, fears of becoming bankrupt. That's a good lesson. Oh, okay, I have a strong belief in money as my safety and security.
Yeah.
Now, everyone will go, well, of course money is your safety and security. But what Spirit is teaching you is, no, you have the ability to bring to you everything you need without dollars. There was a time in this world, believe it or not, where money didn't exist, and people lived and thrived and grew food and loved each other and had children, and that almighty dollar was not there. We've become lost in a society that has indoctrinated us into believing that our security is completely in money.
Yeah, we're the only species that has to pay to live. That's what.
Yes.
Yeah, Ralph Smart, Infinite Waters. He always says, we're so smart. We think humans are smart. We're the only species that has to pay to live.
Yeah, and I mean that's a whole thing too, isn't it? I mean, I think they'll be writing a book on money as well. But
that's important. Yeah.
They're covering all the big subjects with the books. But anyway, it's not just a book about romantic love. It's a book about developing a loving way of being. It's a book about helping us understand where we've become confused and lost in how to live a loving life, how to love ourselves. It doesn't matter how great your partner is. If you are living in a mind that's attacking you all the time, that's hating you, it's no fun. It doesn't matter how nice your car is or how great your body looks. If you hate yourself, it doesn't matter. So it's a more profound look at love from Spirit's point of view. So they're really trying to help us out of this. It's a violent culture. There's a lot of not loving things going on. And most of us say, those are terrible people. It's got nothing to do with me. But the truth of the matter is, this culture is being created by all of us. It's our collective frequency that's bringing this society and maintaining this society. This is what we have to remember, is that we're all collaborators in keeping this society going. So we can't step back from it and say, I have nothing to do with this. We do have something to do with this.
Right.
They're bringing this book through to show us how to become more loving, because we are loving beings. We've just been trained into some very unloving behaviors through our conditioning process. So
you speak a lot about, when you're channeling or when you're speaking, about how we attribute to it by the violence that we watch on TV and all these things, and it seems so daunting. So if we try to stop it, but there's so many billions of people on the planet, it almost seems like, but they're never going to stop making those shows because they're making money, and they're never going to stop torturing animals for food, and they're never going to stop. So it's just you feel, oh God, what?
Yeah.
Even if I stop, nobody's gonna. It's not
But
that many
but
people are not gonna
actually,
stop.
but actually, it's not true because you can see that there's a consciousness shifting about eating meat.
Yes, there
People like
is.
you are
Yeah.
making a difference. And I used to be a real carnivore. I no longer eat meat, and it's because I've heard vegans speaking. I've seen the occasional horrific video, which I don't promote
Right.
people posting those,
Right.
but I have changed, and I have changed because there were people out there who were brave enough to say treating animals this way is cruel. So you're seeing a massive shift of consciousness happening in a relatively short time. I mean, this vegan revolution is really sort of only 10 or so years in the making.
Yeah.
That's a really quick shift. And you know what? I bet in 10 years' time, most people are going to be vegan, and most people, the minority are going to be meat eaters.
Oh my God, 10 years, that would be amazing. I mean, that's not long at all. So
No,
I
so when you think of it as a cultural evolution,
yeah.
10, 20 years isn't that long. So
Right.
if we keep putting that love frequency out there,
Mm-hmm.
if we tell people, see, the thing is, if people knew how creation works,
Right.
they wouldn't do a lot of the things that they do.
Yeah.
If they know that when they go and buy industrially raised meat, that they're contributing to the violence on the planet, if
Mm-hmm.
they really understood that principle,
Yeah.
they would not do it because they don't want to live in a violent world.
Right.
What we've been taught is it doesn't matter what I buy, I don't affect the world.
Yeah.
And that's separation consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's I'm separate from you. What you do doesn't affect me. What I do doesn't affect you. What I think doesn't make any difference. Those are all lies. Everything you do, everything you say, everything you think creates collectively,
Mm-hmm.
and people really, that's the real learning that has to take place, is that you are co-creating. And so when you throw a piece of meat in your basket that was raised in a cruel and unloving way, you are saying, that's okay.
Right. And even the eggs, the chickens are treated so horribly, and the little baby chicks are ground up. So people, even down to that, they'll think, okay, well, I'm not buying the meat, but the eggs. So I think it's really
Eggs.
education, because I was having lunch with a gal yesterday, and she was having an omelet, and she said, oh, well, you're a vegan, so you can just have a veggie omelet. And I said, no, 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 no. That means I don't eat eggs either. And she goes, oh, really? Even the eggs are raised badly? I said, yes. So I think a lot of people don't know. And then, it is just the keep talking about it. I think keep
Yeah.
educating
The
and
thing
saying,
to
"Hey, did you
remember
know?"
is we get it back to the laws of creation and love, because so many of these other things, because when you start getting into meat and what do I eat for dinner, and
Mm-hmm.
people get confused and they don't know, oh, what am I going to feed my husband for dinner?
Yeah.
You get it. You don't go into the form of it. You go beneath the surface and go, I'm going to stop doing the unloving things that I'm doing in my life. Let me see if I can identify them,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going to thrive more if I'm being more loving to myself and everything else. So if you've got the opportunity to buy eggs that were raised on a farm where the chickens were out and they were happy and, they're living their nice chicken life, that doesn't seem like a big decision.
Mm-hmm.
And it does take a lot of effort. But if you begin to see, this is a much more loving way to raise an animal, if I'm taking the time to drive to that farm and buy those eggs, I'm contributing the frequency of love to the planet. This is what we all have to do. If I sit down and I watch a murder show,
Mm-hmm.
I'm contributing the frequency of murder to the planet.
Right.
Is that what I want to do? And guess what? It's not just going to go into the planet. It's going to go into your body-mind complex. It's going to go into your relationships. It's going to go into your health. We're not separate from anything we do.
I had a conversation with an actress yesterday, and she's on one of those cop shows, murder
Yes?
shows. She's an actress on there. She's a well-known actress, and she said, and she's very spiritual and does a lot of work on herself, and it bothers her to be on these shows. But she says, "Look, this is my work. I've been an actress all my life. So what she's trying to do is raise her frequency and bring it on set." And bring love to that set, and maybe so for now she's on this show, but
The thing is, we also have to do is we have to step back from deciding what anybody else's journey is about, because we have no idea what their internal experience is, and we have no idea what their level of spiritual evolution is.
Right.
Our job is to make ourselves more loving. End of story. It's
Yes.
not our job to make anyone else more loving. It's my job to weed out the hateful thoughts in my mind, the unloving thoughts I might have about myself, what unloving behaviors, because trust me, each one of us is a big project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're so often pointing the finger saying, you're unloving, you're bad, you should la la la, and we don't look in the mirror and go, what am I doing to contribute to the unloving frequency that we're experiencing right now? Because it's really coming into the forefront of our minds with all of this violence that's happening, all of this shooting. You know, Ananda says, we are so surprised that you're surprised people are getting shot in a society that has 300 million guns circulating. Why are you surprised?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, oh gosh, more people being killed.
But then yesterday, a big Mack truck mowed down 70 people in France. So yeah, they'll use anything, I guess, any weapon they can do.
Yeah, but it's a collective frequency. It looks like an individual, but the frequency of not love is creating unloving people. Right. And so we, you know, it's very easy in this separated consciousness in which most of us live to go, he's a bad guy, I'm a good guy.
Yes.
But you know what? Everyone's got bad guys out there. We're all thinking we're innocent, but in actual fact, as a collective, we are unloving in many, many ways. Why do you know, they hide those industrial meat raising operations because people actually, if they saw what was happening, they wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, if slaughterhouses had glass walls,
nobody would eat.
Right. But they hide it away.
Yeah, but we have to take responsibility for saying, okay, I actually know something dodgy is happening with this particular industry. I'm not going to hide my head in the sand anymore. I'm going to make this my love project. And I think this is why this book is so important, because it's bringing in all of our desire for love. It's revealing to us our loving nature.
Well, I have a question. Sorry, I don't want to forget it. So I know some people who have actually seen many of these horrible videos. They've seen lectures. They know what's going on, the horror, and they're making excuses. Well, they must be old films, or that must be on an old ranch somewhere. That's not happening, or they just can look the other way and push it out and still keep doing it.
Yeah.
So,
and that's because of their conditioning.
Okay.
So they may have a lot of fear about changing their family's food, for example. So that's often something people say is, oh, I can't afford to eat healthily, and what the heck would I serve for dinner? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of conditioning. So whenever we get the opportunity to be loving and we choose otherwise, it's mostly because there's another aspect of our mind coming into play. There's something that we've been taught coming into play. So
these people will tell me I'm radical. I'm crazy for not for not wanting to eat it. Just you're not harming anybody by having a piece of chicken. You're not harming anybody by having an egg. Come on, you're radical. You're crazy.
But what you're hearing there is their mistaken belief that what they do doesn't affect the world.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
trying to explain that.
Yes. So it's and that's why you and I are doing this work. That's why I'm doing this work. Is because many years ago I lived in a mind that was very judgmental. Most of it I tended to heap on myself, but I wasn't in a loving frequency. And I had this amazing experience of studying A Course in Miracles, having this awakening, and going from a suicidal mind to a peaceful mind. And I'm just an ordinary person. And what I realized is this is a journey that anyone can make. Anyone can go from a hateful mind to a loving mind. And that is what this world needs, because look at what's happening to us. Yes. I tend not to argue with people because that's not the issue here, but you have to say to people, you think this system's, you think the way we live is good? And they're like, yeah, it's great. And then you go, look at the environment, look at the wars, look at the deaths. we can't just take our lunch at a nice fancy restaurant and say, this is our society. Our society is the whole thing. You've got to look at the whole thing. Go take a look at the pictures of Syria and go, oh no, it's going great. No, it's not going great. Those people in France, yes, it's not going great. You know, there's a lot of unloving behavior happening, but until we realize that it's coming from within each and every one of us, we're going to blame everyone else, and we aren't going to solve the problem, because we're going to keep doing all the unloving things we're doing, ignorant of the fact that we're generating this unloving frequency that's manifesting for us to see. It's saying, look at what you're creating, guys. This is you guys here. You know, it's so it's the idea of separation that my thoughts and my feelings and what I eat is separate from the world. That's the biggest error we make in the West. But we're taught that it's a materialistic world. It's physical. I have nothing to do with it. But of course, when Eastern philosophy sort of came into the West, that was really the beginning of that. You know, the frequency I hold is really, it does change things. I mean, that's kind of what yoga's for, and the Buddhist teachings around compassion and loving kindness.
And that's why a lot of the spiritual masters eat the same kind of diet. You know, many of them are vegan, or don't drink alcohol, or don't. Yes, they have that similar spiritual diet. Yeah.
And it's overwhelming for people when they first sort of are introduced to some of these principles. But you can make everyone can make one change today. Pick something that you can think, oh, actually, that's not a very loving thing that I do. I'm going to work on that for a little while. Whether it's the way you speak to your spouse, or whether it's the food you're binging on, or whatever it is, you can pick one thing and go, okay, I'm going to get a more loving attitude with that. And you will feel your frequency go up, and you'll begin to get a different experience. And that's really what all of these spiritual books are about. They're about getting your frequency higher so you can have a better experience. And when each of us begin to have a better, more loving experience, guess what? We all join together, and the world becomes a better place. So that's really what this book is about, getting to the fundamentals of the laws of love and creation. And helping us understand where we're off track.
Awesome. Well, we're going to do some channeling and get some messages. So this is exciting. We're going to try to get Jesus in here and have his perspective on some things. So take it away, Tina.
Okay, so when I channel, I take a couple of breaths when I'm channeling Jesus, and he will come in and introduce himself, and we'll see what he has to say on love and a map to the unaltered soul. I'll see you at the end of the session. You are blessed beings. You are blessed beings indeed, and you do not know it. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and the work that we are doing through this particular being is for all of you. This being has shifted her frequency from unloving to more loving, and in that shift, she allowed loving consciousness to connect with her. And many of you are seeking connection to spirit. Many of you are trying to connect with beings of a higher frequency, and it is very important for you to understand truly what love is. And it is for this reason that this book has been transmitted through this particular channel. So her work is love-based. My work is love-based. That is what I have always done. That is what I did on the earth plane so many centuries ago. But what was done with my work was unloving, and this is one of the fundamentals of your society that has caused a lot of confusion. All of you know that the teachings of the one that you know as Jesus were kindness and forgiveness and compassion. And then something happened to those teachings. They became ammunition for war and murder, repression, control, and caused a lot of suffering, none of which I condoned. But these became the building blocks of your society. The idea of suffering as holy, the idea of the crusade, the religious war. And yes, many of your wars are religious wars because you are going into countries that are different than you, trying to make them the same as you based on misunderstandings about what goodness is, about what love is. Love is freedom, love is creativity, love is offering, love is extending, love is kindness. Love is not warring, love is not limiting, love is not judgmental, love is not cruel. So this is the fundamental teaching that is coming through in all of these books, in all of the lectures that all of the beings that speak through this very clear channel have, is that love is the answer. Now, that is a platitude that is spoken many, many times in your society. And if you ask most people, do you believe in love? They will say yes. Some will be disillusioned and say no. But most people will say yes, I think love is a good thing. But most beings do not really understand what love is. Your life is a demonstration of Spirit's love for you. So these are some of the fundamentals that we want you to begin to look at. You are an aspect of God mind, a divine being, incredibly creative, incredibly loving, who has come down into a separation experience to experience individuality and to have a physical, visceral understanding of the beliefs that you hold in your mind. Now, this is Spirit saying, you believe in this? Okay, you get to go down into a physical incarnation and you get to experience your beliefs. This is what your life is. This is what your incarnation is. It is not to become rich and famous and buy lots of houses. That is not what your incarnation is for. Your incarnation is to experience your consciousness and to remove the aspects of it that are unloving. And the way you get to have that self-understanding is to feel. So you feel viscerally through your emotional guidance system whether or not you are in attunement with love. When you're in attunement with love in all its many forms, you feel good. So if you are engaged in a creative activity that you love, dancing, painting, gardening, cooking, and you are loving it, that frequency gives you the feedback of pleasure, joy, contentment, happiness. When you go into unloving behavior, judgment, withdrawal, accusation, prejudice, racial discrimination, you are going to feel bad. Many of you mistake this feeling of feeling bad for that other person. You think it's their fault that you feel bad. But when you judge, when you hate, when you loathe, when you attack, you feel bad because you have disconnected yourself from love. And this is where the idea of not judging comes in, because in judgment, in saying somebody else is bad, somebody else is evil, and you are all dealing with this as you see the violence that is playing out in your society. You're seeing the division, you're seeing the manifestations of separation in your racial issues that are coming to the head. You are seeing your belief in violence because of the use of guns and the propensity for the presence of guns in your society. You are getting a visceral feedback of your level of consciousness. And this is something that these books are here to teach you. You are not separate from anything. You are not separate from any experience you are having. You as an individual are having your consciousness reflected back to you through the people, places, things, and experiences of your life. As a society, you are having your collective consciousness mirrored back to you in the people, places, and things and experiences of your country's experience and life. And so you are getting to see in physical, tangible terms where you are blocked from love's presence, where you are unaware of what you truly are. But what happens here is when you begin to see very, very unloving behavior, when you begin to feel that this is wrong, this is not love, this is not what I want to live with, this is not what I want to create, this is not what I want for my country or myself or my children, then you must look inside and say, where am I contributing to an unloving frequency? But you do not understand how truly powerful you are. when you were, the reference, you were created in God's image was put into ancient texts. It was because you are creators. You are creating in this moment the frequency of love or the frequency of fear. Those are your only two choices. There is one road. There is only one road. You think there are a million roads to walk on in this world, but there is only one road, and it is either towards love or away from love. The closer you get towards love, the better you feel, because that is your nature. That is the unaltered soul that you came here as. And when you walk away from love through judgment, through fear, through control, manipulation, hatred, racial prejudice, violence, you walk away from love and you begin to feel bad. Your guidance system is impeccable and constant. And it is in your feelings that you will begin to know whether you are correct or not. When you're feeling bad, you're thinking unloving thoughts. When you are feeling good, you are walking towards love. Now, where the confusion comes in with relationships is the very unconsciousness of your hateful thoughts. So most of you look towards love as your salvation. If only I can meet the right person, if only I can fall in love with the right person, then I will feel better, I will be better, everything will be okay in this world of chaos and violence. And that illusion is marketed to you in your society, and it is in fact a very unloving idea. What we want you to know, and this is what my experience was and my demonstration was when I was incarnated on the physical plane so many years ago, is that everybody needs to be loved. Everybody deserves love. Everybody is seeking love. And there are only two things. There is a lack of love and there is a call for love. That is all you are ever seeing in any situation. In your society, you are trained in many, many social constraints and rules and regulations. But what we want you to do is get down to the basics. Is this an act of love or is this a call for love? That is it. So when you see, for example, a child in the supermarket having a temper tantrum, you have a choice there. How are you going to look upon that little being? Are you going to hate them or are you going to love them? Ask yourself, is this little being demonstrating love or is that a call for love? It is a call for love. That child is in pain, is in suffering for some reason. What you do then is you send them a little mental blessing. Bless your heart, you're going to be okay. I send you love, it's going to be okay. You can send a blessing to the parent too, because they are suffering if their child is doing that kind of thing. If you look upon that lack of love situation and bring a judgmental mind to it, you are contributing to the world of violence and hatred. You are bringing an unloving frequency to your fellow brother or sister. That little being is the same as you. That little being is you. When you hate that being, when you loathe that being, when you judge that being, you do that to yourself, because this is a reflective world. When you hate, you receive hate. To give and receive are the same thing. That is what that statement means. So when you give unloving thoughts out to the world, guess what? You're going to receive them. When you give loving thoughts out to the world, guess what? You are going to receive them. So you have 1,000 opportunities every single day to be loving or unloving. But in your confusion, in your societal training, you don't know what to do often. It is very, very good to get down to that basic. Is this an act of love or is it a call for love? If it is a call for love, then I am going to add love to the situation in some way, shape, or form. And it can be in thought, it can be in word, and it can be in deed. You get to choose what's comfortable for you. You don't have to do anything physical, but mental is powerful. You create your world from what you think repeatedly. So don't think that sending a loving thought is nothing. It is everything. And when you do it over and over and over again, you get to reap the harvest of the seeds you sow. That is what those parables are telling you, dear ones. You reap what you sow, whether you want it or not. What you put out into the world, what you nurture and what you pay attention to, what you coddle and look at. It can be, if you are looking at hatred, and this is so important in your desire for love at this time in your society, because you are being fed a steady diet of violence and hatred. And if you look upon that world and hate it back, and hate those people back, you are functioning in unconsciousness, contributing the same energy that they are using. You cannot hate someone who has done a hateful act and think you are any different from them. You are the same as them if you hate them. If you want more love in the world, you must turn your television sets off. You must focus on love with all of your ability, and you must begin to sow the seeds of love. And each one of you that are trained in this secular world, that are trained in this physical world, believing that you have nothing to do with how the world looks, will have trouble doing that, because you won't believe that you can affect the world. But trust us, you can. You are all affecting the world. You are all affecting your health and your bodies every second of every day with the frequency of the thoughts, actions, and words that you speak, think, and behave. You are a powerful creator, and your natural home is love, and that is why you feel so bad when you witness unloving behavior, when you feel bad when you are unloving. And that is what this guidance system is trying to show you. It is all spirit loving you, trying to get you to see where you are unloving. And sickness and disease is a powerful demonstration of repeated internal unloving thoughts and ideas. It manifests in war and rape and killings. It manifests internally in disease and depression and suicidal thoughts. So understand that nothing is happening to you. You are emitting a frequency, and you are getting a direct reflection back. So begin to look at this world as an opportunity to see where you are off track. So begin to see your problems as an opportunity to love. Begin to see your difficulties as a demonstration of an interfering belief in love's way. Love is flowing to you all the time from within your guidance system and from that benevolent, loving, creative force that sometimes you call God. We don't like to use that word because it causes upset in many minds. But once again, it causes upset in minds because what has been done with that name. It is not the name itself. It is the history of what has been associated with that name. So if the word God upsets you, begin to understand that that is just a word. The upset is in you, the anger is in you, and there is some forgiveness work to do. So we will keep this brief today. So thank you for allowing me to step into your consciousness for a little while. Understand that there are many, many teachings available through this channel that will assist you in making your life better, making your health better, and making your world better. So we will speak to you at another time.